What's good, all my Guardians and Guardianettes? Two-Face Gaming here, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a new series for you guys called 2F Gauntlet. You guys are definitely not going to want to miss this new series, so make sure you guys watch the video all the way through. Now, I know you guys are wondering what on earth is 2F Gauntlet. Basically, 2F Gauntlet is where I take two weapons and put them against each other in a head-to-head battle. At the end of the video, I will give my opinion on who I think the winner is, and you guys can also vote down in the comment section who you guys think the winner is as well. I'm very excited to get started with this new series on my channel, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. Wait. Now, before we get started with the video, I just have a couple things that I need to preface real fast. First off, this series, along with the rest of my channel, is going to be mainly PvE focused, and I just want to let you guys know that. But don't worry, my fellow PvP players, I will still have ratings for the weapons in PvP. I just want to keep a PvE focused channel, and I want these videos to be consistent with that. The second thing is that 2F Gauntlet is solely my take and my own personal opinion on these weapons, and if you do not agree with me or anyone else in the comment section, that is okay. All I ask is that we keep any discussions respectful and acknowledge that everyone is allowed to have their own opinion. With that being said, I've kept you guys waiting long enough, so let's jump right into the video. Oh, and one last thing. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps my channel a lot. And don't forget to comment down below how your day is going. Alright guys, so as you can see by the title, we're going to get started with the Dead Man's Tale versus Touch of Malice. All of these videos are going to be mainly PvE focused, but stay tuned to the end of the video if you want some PvP stats as well. So let's get started with Dead Man's Tale. So the intrinsic perk on Dead Man's Tale is called Cranial Spike, and that states that chaining precision hits grants bonus damage and quickens reload speed. This increase in damage does make quite a bit of difference in PvE, and the nice part about Dead Man's Tale in opposed to Touch of Malice is that you get a free perk slot to roll whatever perk you want. So I personally have Vocal Weapon on mine, which will give my Dead Man's Tale a 20% damage boost to bosses and vehicles. So that is very strong on Dead Man's, and it also comes with high caliber rounds, which is nice. You can roll different rounds on there too. You can roll ricochet, high cal, whatever you want. So that is one of the benefits that Dead Man's Tale has over Touch of Malice. Another benefit Dead Man's has over Touch of Malice is just its ease of use. You'll see later when I go over Touch of Malice, it's a little bit harder to use compared to Dead Man's. So I would say for beginners, I would say one, Dead Man's is easier to get than Touch of Malice, and two, it is probably easier to use than Touch of Malice as well. So if you're going to opt for one of the two as a beginner, I would opt for Dead Man's over Touch of Malice. This weapon has a ton of strengths and little to no weaknesses actually. So with most scout rifles, the biggest weakness that scout rifles have is when you're using a primary, typically you're using a secondary and a heavy as well. So one of the weaknesses that scouts have is the close range, but as you can see, it has a hip fire mode that fires faster, and that kind of combats the range issue because you can just delete stuff at a closer range by hip fire. And you can hip fire from a distance as well, but I think the hip fire really comes into play up close, and I really think that's where it shines. Also, the hip fire mode for Dead Man's fires faster than the normal mode, so when you're aiming down sights, it is 120 RPM. And I believe when you're hip firing, it's 150. Don't quote me on that. I believe it's 150, but it is faster, and it's noticeably faster. You can tell when using it, and it doesn't change the damage at all. It's like Last Word. That's why I like it so much, because I love Last Word. This is basically just ranged Last Word. It's super fun. I highly suggest using it, and it's great for PvP. My one argument against it would be that there are better DPS options out there. I mean, you could use something like Galawhore, but the good thing about Dead Man's is if you're going to use an exotic primary, you can use a legendary heavy like a Type-In or a Reed's Regret or a Storm Chaser. The legendary linears that are currently in the game are some of the top options for DPS. So I personally don't feel like you have to run an exotic heavy, so I opt for exotic primaries a lot of the time, or secondaries. So that is why I'm doing this series, and that is why I want to inform you guys on what you guys can use to open up that slot. I really think Dead Man's is one of the best options for this slot. and I don't see a whole lot of downsides for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and rate Deadman's a solid 8 out of 10 for PvE. Yes, there are better options, but Deadman's is still a solid option, and if you want to have fun, this is something you can have fun with and still have a good amount of success with. Next, we're going to move on to Touch of Malice for PvE. The exotic perks for Touch of Malice state that the final round in the magazine deals bonus damage drawing from the wielder's life force, and then regenerates itself. Rapidly defeating 3 targets restores health. It also has a perk called Charged with Blight. Precision hits drain combatants' life force and charge up a ball of darkness. And then fire to unleash the Blight's projectiles, shrouding combatants in darkness and temporarily blinding them. Exotic Catalyst also comes with Rapid Hit. So there are a lot of benefits and a few weaknesses to this weapon, but honestly I feel like the goods outweigh the bad in this weapon. So we're going to start off with the bad first. The negatives I would give this weapon is the fact that it damages you when you're shooting it. So you could potentially kill yourself with it. But at the same time, that's not too bad of a negative because there are a lot of ways you can heal yourself in the game. There's Wormhusk Crown, there's Warlock Rifts, there's Solar Titan with Laurel. You literally can't die with that. So there's a lot of solid options. I would personally say that it is worst on Hunter just because it's not really a reliable way to heal yourself. But if you're using it on Warlock or Titan, I would definitely say it's a strong weapon. My ranking is going to be a little different though because I do main Hunter, but I just want to preface and say if you're a Titan or a Warlock, I would strongly suggest using Touch of Malice. And that's not to say that Hunters can't use it. You can obviously still use Touch of Malice. I'm using it in the gameplay. I'm on Hunter. I am using Solar Hunter with the Healing Grenade and Wormhusk Crown. That is the best way I've seen to use it, just because I want to have as many heals as possible, and the Hunter dodge is not always up when I need it. I just have to wait a few seconds, and if I need to heal, I can just use the Healing Grenade. So that's the best method I've seen to use it on Hunter. If you guys have any other suggestions, feel free to leave it down in the comment section. So like I said, there are a lot of positives for Touch of Malice. One of the big positives is that it is very ammo friendly. When you get down to 1 shot in the magazine, it will infinitely be at 1 shot when you start using your health bar. So you can replenish your health and that effect will still be active. It does not have to be the same health bar, you can heal. So that is one of the big positives about Touch of Malice. If you have a good healing build, this is probably one of the best weapons you can use because you have infinite ammo pretty much. And I know you have infinite ammo in primary, but not having to reload in PvE is huge. Another benefit Touch of Malice has at the time if you're watching this video, if you're watching this video right now, it is December 8th, 2022. We are currently in Season of the Seraph. The benefit it currently has over Deadman's is its affinity with overload rounds. Now, when you're watching this video, in the gameplay, it is anti-barrier. That is gameplay from last season. That is no longer the case. We are in Season of Seraph. The Scout Rifle mod is Overload. So I believe Touch of Malice will be better for Overload champions than Deadman's because of the Charge with Blight perk. That perk, you launch it and it does tick damage. Tick damage is really good against Overload champions, so Touch of Malice will be really strong against those Overloads. And you can still use Deadman's for Overloads and do just fine, but I prefer tick damage when it comes to Overloads because the champions for Overloads are kind of buggy in this game, and sometimes they don't register, the hits don't register as well. So I prefer weapons that have tick damage, so something like Wither Horde, Osteostriga, Monarch, Touch of Malice. Weapons like that that can do tick damage I think are better against Overloads because it'll keep that damage constant and you can just constantly keep stunning the Overloads. So I would prefer Touch of Malice over Deadman's for Overload champions. Okay, so we went over the last bullet, we went over the Overload affinity for this season. The last thing I want to touch on, no pun intended, is the extra damage you get from Touch of Malice. So in PvE, enemies take an additional 50% damage for around 2.5 seconds. after they take damage from the Shards of Galawhore. This can be added on top of the 100% increase from using the final bullet over and over. So in total, that makes about 150 PvE damage just from using the last bullet and the charge with Lightbird. And that is huge. That allows for huge DPS, way more than Deadman's. And if you can keep your health up, this is one of the strongest primaries in the entire game. So that's going to wrap it up for Touch of Malice. Overall, I'm going to go ahead and rank Touch of Malice for PvE a solid 9 out of 10. I really think it's one of the strongest primaries in the game, and I really do think if you can keep your health up, it is 100% worth running. Alright, so like I said earlier in the video, this is going to be a PvE focused channel, but I do want to touch on some PvP numbers for anyone that is curious. So we're going to jump right into that. As you can see, we're starting with Deadman's. It does 80 to the head and it 3 taps. This is after the update where it nerfed the headshot damage by 1 and it buffed the body shot damage by 8. So the value went from 46 to 54, and now the headshot damage value is 80. What that means is now you can 2 crit 1 body with Deadman's where you weren't able to do that before. It also now takes 4 body shots to kill instead of 5. Now when you hip fire, the fire mode will be faster and it does not change the damage numbers. So you want to hip fire this weapon if you can, but aiming down sights is not bad either if you can't hit your shots. I would say Deadman's is very, very solid in PvP, and through my experience using it, it is probably one of the best primaries in the game right now for PvP after the buff. So I am going to give Deadman's a solid 10 out of 10 in PvP. Let's move on to Touch of Malice. Alright, so if we get into the damage numbers for Touch of Malice, it's going to do 47 to the head and 28 to the body, and this is if you're not on the last bullet. So all of these numbers are going to be different if you're not on the last bullet. So if you're going to use Touch of Malice in PvP, you definitely want to make sure you're on that final bullet so you get the increased damage. Yes, you're going to take damage as well, but you will be doing increased damage, and that will allow you to get some nice numbers. If you pair it with Radiant, then it'll allow you to 3-tap, which is very nice. But unfortunately for you, Touch of Malice, I'm not including extra buffs like Radiant, so we're just going off of the base numbers. So if we're going off of the base numbers, it takes 5 shots to kill when we're not on the final bullet, and it takes about 8 body shots to kill if we're not on the final bullet. So with it taking 5 headshots to kill and 8 body shots to kill when not on the final bullet, that mode is very unforgiving, so I really suggest being on that final bullet if you're going to use this weapon. And as you can see, the numbers are a lot better. 61 to the head, and that's going to 4-tap, 3-tap if you have Radiant, as I said. So it does 61 to the head, and as you can see, it does about 36 to the body. So that's a bit of an increase. So extra damage there is always nice, and it does make it a lot more forgiving. Now we're gonna wait for my buddy Metal Skull to come back so we can test the last feature of Touch of Malice, and then I'm gonna give my overall ranking for both weapons. So we are testing the charge with Blight here, and as you can see, it's a one-shot, but there is a condition that will make it not one-shot. Like I said, this is on the final bullet. If you're not on that final bullet, it'll do about 165 and your opponent will still be alive. So if you're gonna use this, make sure you use it at times 10 for the maximum amount of damage, and then make sure you're on that final bullet for the increased damage. So that's pretty much all there is to know about Touch of Malice in PvP. I'm gonna go ahead and give my ranking for the Touch of Malice. It's okay, but honestly, there's better options for PvP, even for scout rifles in general. So I'm going to give Touch of Malice in PvP a 7 out of 10. And that wraps up the first 2F Gauntlet video. Now I'm going to take everything we said in this video and I'm going to pick a overall winner. So I think in PvE, Touch of Malice has the slight edge, and in PvP, Deadman's Tale has the clear edge over Touch of Malice. Overall, I'm going to say Deadman's Tale is today's winner. If you guys disagree with me, then feel free to leave that down in the comment section. But that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video today, make sure you leave a like down below, comment what you guys want to see in the future, and tell me how your day is going. And don't forget to subscribe to join the 2FG culture. Guardians and Guardianettes, eyes up.